What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Where in the world am I? I am still in Addis Ababa, the capital city of Ethiopia. If you are new to the channel, I'm here to introduce you to the historyful countries. So if you want to know how this country came to be, stay tuned. Now today's episode is all about Ethiopia, and as usual, I'll be sharing with you 3 points. These are just my opinion, and there's always more to learn about these amazing countries. Alright, let's begin. Let's start with number 3, the name Ethiopia. Now before we talk about the name Ethiopia, I would like to mention that Ethiopia is the only country in Africa whose colonial masters were not Europeans. That's right, this country was never colonized by European powers such as Portugal, Belgium, or France. And this was due to its geographical location and topography. As you can see, Ethiopia is surrounded by high mountains and deep valleys. On top of that, the Ethiopian highlands are one of the largest elevated plateaus in the world. In fact, over 80% of Ethiopia's population live on this plateau. Therefore, it was very difficult for any colonial power to access and rule over the country. For example, when Italy tried to conquer Ethiopia during World War II, they faced many difficulties due to the rugged terrain. However, there is no evidence that people lived on the Ethiopian plateau. According to the Bible, this is where the famous Queen of Sheba was from. Her kingdom was called Sabia, and she visited King Solomon in Jerusalem. It is also believed that the Ark of the Covenant is kept in Aksum, Ethiopia. So what does the word Ethiopia mean? Well, the name Ethiopia comes from the Greek word Aethiops, which means burnt face. This was because Greeks thought that all people living south of Egypt had dark skin. The Greeks used to travel south from Egypt, and they saw the Nubian people who had tattoos on their faces. So they believed that everyone further south would have burnt faces as well. But this is not true, because there are many different ethnic groups in Ethiopia, and they don't even speak one language. However, the official language is Amharic, and the majority of people are Christians. Although Islam is the second largest religion in the country. By the way, most people believe that Ethiopia is synonymous with Abyssinia. So let me explain why this is wrong. Abyssinia refers to the ancient Ethiopian Kingdom of Aksum. Back then, this kingdom was located in the northern part of Ethiopia. They were one of the first kingdoms to convert to Christianity in the 4th century. Today, the word Abyssinia is rarely used. However, the Ethiopian Orthodox Church plays an important role in the life of Ethiopians. This church has many unique traditions that date back to the early days of Christianity. For example, they use the old 7-day week, and they celebrate Christmas on the 7th of January instead of December. Alright, let's get back to the history of Ethiopia. So let's go back to 1936. At that time, Italy tried to conquer Ethiopia but failed. They did try again after World War II and succeeded. Yes, from 1936 to 1941, Ethiopia was occupied by Italy. After that, Haile Selassie became the Emperor of Ethiopia and ruled the country until 1975. During his reign, he modernized the country and introduced many reforms. Unfortunately, the majority of the Ethiopian people were poor, and they faced many hardships. So a Marxist group called the Derg overthrew the emperor and established a communist state. From 1975 to 1991, Ethiopia was ruled by a military junta. This period was known as the Ethiopian Revolution. Unfortunately, the country was involved in civil wars and international conflicts. In 1977, Ethiopia fought against Somalia and lost. 2 years later, they were defeated by the rebels from Eritrea. So finally, in 1991, the Derg government fell and 2 new states were formed, Ethiopia and Eritrea. Now, 2. What is the oldest university in Ethiopia? Okay, so this is a bit tricky. Let me explain. The University of Addis Ababa is the oldest public university in Ethiopia. It was founded in 1950, and at that time it was known as the University College of Addis Ababa. But did you know that there was another university established earlier? It's called the University of Aksum. Now this one was founded in 1935, and it's a private institution. At first it was called the School of Medicine of St. Paul's Hospital. Then it was renamed to University College of Aksum, and finally to University of Aksum. So technically the University of Aksum is older than the University of Addis Ababa, however, wasn't a public institution. Anyway, these universities played an important role in educating the people of Ethiopia. Fortunately, during the revolution, many students were persecuted and had to flee the country. After 1991, a lot of things changed. Universities started admitting female students, and the curriculum was reformed. Today, Ethiopia has many universities, both public and private. In fact, over the past decade, the number of higher education institutions has grown significantly. Now let's move on to number 1. Why is Ethiopia called the Water Tower of Africa? So as I mentioned before, Ethiopia is located in Northeast Africa. Within its territory, there are 5 major rivers. These are the Blue Nile, the Omo, the Awash, the Sabat, and the Tekez River. All these rivers are tributaries of the Nile. In fact, the Blue Nile gives about 85% of the water of the main Nile, so you can imagine how important Ethiopia is. In addition to the rivers, Ethiopia is home to the Great Rift Valley. This valley is actually a series of connected valleys that stretch all the way from Djibouti to Mozambique. In Ethiopia, there are 3 major lakes in the Great Rift Valley: Lakes Tanganyika, Malawi, and Victoria. Ethiopia is also home to Lake Afdera, which is the hottest lake in the world. Its water temperature reaches up to 100 degrees Celsius. This is because the lake is located near the Afar Triangle, which is a place where 3 tectonic plates meet. So that's why Ethiopia is called the Water Tower of Africa. The amount of water found in this small area is huge and provides water to millions of people. Unfortunately, there is a problem. Most of this water goes to waste. In other words, it is not properly managed. Although Ethiopia has an abundance of freshwater resources, about 80% of the population do not have access to safe drinking water. There are also plans to build more dams and generate electricity. But some experts say that this will disrupt the flow of water to neighboring countries. So what's next? Well, that's all I have for today's episode. Hope you enjoyed learning about Ethiopia. If you want to watch more episodes, click the video on screen now. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel so you won't miss out any new episodes. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next episode.